If you are a lover of all things magical and mystical, which I know you are if you're here, today's episode with returning guest Heather Hanson is like being handed a magic wand and joyful permission to step into the you that only you can inhabit and become one with who you are here to be. As always, Heather is inspiring, funny, joyful, and we learn from her own learned wisdom through her own experiences to kind of guide us on our own life's experience. Listen in for a beautiful journey into what's possible. With that, let's dive in. Welcome back to Mystical Sisterhood. This is your host, Maureen Spielman, and today I am back with Heather Hanson, magical mentor and founder, creator of the Creative Sage Cottage in Union Pier, Michigan. Heather first joined me on episode 18 last year, which was titled The Joys of Magical Mentoring. And it was one of the first times that I sat down with you, Heather, and we really got into it and
Yeah,
we just went deep quickly. And if anyone's interested in that episode, it's a little bit more, I think, Heather, about your background and what led you to the work you're doing right now.
yeah.
And I'll also say, I don't have the episode number sitting in front of me, but you joined Alicia Isaac's house and Valerie Wood, myself, and you for the Mystical Sisterhood Roundtable. And I'll
Yes.
definitely link that episode because that was just a whole lot of fun. So, this idea of we can create joy-filled spaces with deep, deep wisdom and knowing, and just make it really accessible for the listener of what we are, you know, I don't want to say like trying to convey because it just comes so naturally, but
Yeah.
the Mystical Sisterhood Roundtable was just a whole lot of fun. And we went deep and kind of were able to use it as a space to take turns and just sort of layer on our
Sure.
experiences and what we're learning. So, with that I want to say a hearty welcome back to you.
Yay, I'm so honored to be here. You know I love our time together.
So do I. So this is going to be airing mid-August. And as we sit here today, you were just saying to me, Maureen, it's a new moon. We're like, what things are going on this week that are so potent?
Oh my goodness, just a couple. So we have the new moon happening in Leo, which was actually yesterday, but it's sort of, I want to say, energetically bleeds into the couple of days afterwards. We have Lionsgate portal on the 8th, which is monster manifestation, intention setting. We just started Mercury retrograde. So we have a trifecta of fabulous happening right now. August is a big, big month energetically, depending on what you choose to do with it. You know, we're so close to pivoting, whether we like to admit it or acknowledge it or not. We're getting close to autumn, right? We're moving a little closer. So if we sort of settle into the energy of what it feels like right now. We're nearing a harvest season. What have we
Mm.
been working on? Or what do we last ditched effort to get a few end of the season plants into the ground to maybe return something that we had been hoping for? So yeah, it's a bitter week, a busy week, depending on what you choose to do with it.
Oh, that's so beautiful. Am I hearing you say that perhaps up to this time, we've been laying the seeds, we've been doing the work, we've been working in a sense to this point? Because I think about when you talk about this upcoming sort of shift into fall, autumn, I think about how the light changes outside and how it becomes a really beautiful hue, I believe. It changes. I think that August and September have that beautiful quality to them. And why is that meaningful? Because I think that if it's coming up as meaningful, it feels like a rest. It feels like a relaxation. It feels like a pause of some sort and a
It's an
preparation.
It's
Yeah.
an invitation, isn't it? So we've been super busy all summer long here in the United States, in the Northern
Mhm.
Hemisphere. We've been planting seeds and gardening and outside and running around and doing all the really high energy, high vibration things so that when the season shifts, we have everything we need in order to be able to rest. This is a time for looking around and asking ourselves, okay, what do I need? What do I need to harvest right now? Like if I let my tomatoes grow a little bit longer, is it going to be too much, or do I pick them now and enjoy this, the best
Mm,
part of them, in preparation for allowing what we no longer need to fall? I think I may have said before, like as we switch into autumn and we look at the seasonal cues that are happening, we see the leaves that are beginning to dry up, they're falling off the trees. This is not a time for getting out glue and sticking those leaves back onto the trees, right? Instead, we're going to let all the excess, all the peripheral noise and context and things that we don't need anymore, we're going to allow that. We're going to invite it
mm,
to fall
mhm,
away so
mhm,
that we can hold space for what is truly necessary in order to achieve a little bit of kind of taking stock and then being very still.
mm. Yeah. Thank you for that permission to be able to reflect on what's come before
Yeah.
and be at a still point as I look towards my future.
This is what I always, when clients come to me and they are just feeling off, most of the time, if you're not somebody who wants to jump into deep mystical study and you can't enroll in a program, or you're just not ready to start big journaling and big meditation, you have one very special, beautiful luminary in the sky every single day that you can take cues from.
Mm,
And when the moon is new, like it is today, and we don't see it, we know it's coming back, right? We
mhm,
hope, we have faith that it's coming back.
mhm,
And then as we move through the cycle, we get to the full moon where we get to check in and say, okay, I set this intention. I leaned in with faith during the new moon.
mhm,
What do I need to look at today
mhm,
during a full moon time? What sort of cues are being offered? Where do I need to shine a light and check back in and see how I'm feeling about everything that I wanted to call towards myself?
yeah.
So that's a really broad way of tuning into seasonal alignment or energetic alignment. And then you can funnel it down into seasons. You can go into days, you can go into numbers. There's so many cues that are out there for us. The most important one being, how do you feel?
Mhm,
How do you feel right now? Do you
mhm,
feel that the shift is starting to take place?
mm,
And if so, why not honor that? What
mm.
sort of wisdom is in there for us if we sit quietly into this season and just ask, what would you have me know right now?
Yeah. Yeah, you're such a master at offering those beautiful questions, and I'm seeing myself, as we prepared for our talk today, we were talking about, our own personal growth and where we were when we first met to where we are now. But when you're talking about the seasons, I think, I started cueing into the seasons. You were one of my teachers for sure. I can think of another woman, Catherine Rolt, who's been on, who wrote a book about this changes we go through during the seasons and everything. So I think I remember back to last fall and remembering that, oh, I went through this process last fall. That is true, but that's not exactly true. I don't think, because I feel like such a different me. And do we all go through that change every year where the person meeting this new season is literally rebirthed? Is that too
Well,
big?
I mean, look at your body. Your cells are growing and dying every day, right? So the woman that you were a week ago, that those cells aren't even here anymore. Some of those cells have, I mean, it's crazy, right? To think about this. We are in, it's so beautiful because we are in, if we allow, we are in a constant state of evolving
Mhm.
towards remembering and getting reacquainted and stepping back into this space of complete awareness and almost remembering
Mm,
this higher version of ourselves. And so kudos to you for knowing that you're not the same woman that you were last year. That's called growth. And
Hmm.
it's such a beautiful thing that you decided at some point it's time for me to step fully into the woman that I wish to become. This doesn't mean there's anything wrong with you today
Yeah.
or that there was anything wrong last year. But, one of my favorite things to talk about is always awareness, because an awareness without judgment. Because once you know something, once you see something, if you can move the ego aside and simply allow yourself the ability to just see it, you know that once you know, you can never unknow something.
Hmm.
So if you know something doesn't feel right, something doesn't fit, of course, you're going to want to do something about that.
Yeah.
Not everybody is ready. It's a
Hmm.
process. Sometimes we think we have to take these big leaps into this next version of ourselves, when quite honestly, this is a journey and it's something that we need to pace, not to wake up tomorrow and attempt to be a completely
Yeah.
different self, because
Hmm.
that doesn't stick.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. I love how you are talking about our remembering. And I'm wondering if you can share with us what you've learned to remember about yourself and your journey. And maybe, when in your years before this that you had forgotten, and that as using you as an example of the rediscovery of the remembering and what that looks like.
I think that the biggest thing that's happened for me in the last couple of years is allowing, and it really is allowing myself to truly know that God speaks through all of us and to
Hmm.
all of us,
Hmm.
and that I'm an ongoing part of that conversation, as is everything that has taken a breath or has shown up on this planet, because there is a spark of the divine in all of it. And if I can let myself believe that, then I mean, it's a great thing and it's a scary thing simultaneously, because
Hmm.
I can no longer say that what I deem as success or failure or things that are working or not working are someone else's fault,
Hmm.
because I have a
Yeah.
choice and I have the ability to listen to my intuition when everyone is saying turn right and my spirit is saying turn left. The candy's over here. I Why do I always want to go right when I know best for me? You know what I mean? The candy's over there. I can see the candy, but
Hmm.
everyone's saying, and by the way, candy is very important for me in case you haven't figured that out. When everyone is saying come over here and
Hmm.
you know better, why do we doubt ourselves to the point where we go over there and then we look over and go, but I knew that's where I was supposed to be.
Yeah.
So in the last couple of years for me, it can't be like on Tuesdays, God's communicating to me, and on Thursdays, I'm strictly human. It has to be this awareness of an ongoing dialogue. And if that's true, ooh, like, well, how does that change everything? And what do I do with that? So it's been a period of tremendous growth, I think, for me. There's also a mid 50s now, and I sort of look at my life and go, okay, am I doing the things and surrounding myself with the people and the feelings that I really want for myself right now? Because I'm not going to get this time back in this
Hmm.
incarnation.
Hmm.
So I best decide how I truly want to enjoy this experience and what do I perhaps need to release in order for that to happen. So I think, to sum up my long narrative, I would say divine awareness is
Beautiful.
the biggest part of this journey. That
Mm.
it truly is a thing. It truly is like you've been hearing about it in synagogue and temple and in the
Yeah.
mosque and everywhere you practice. And the truest voice is the one that you hear from you. It
Yeah.
comes from within you
Mm.
by design, because only you can experience to hear it that way. And
Yeah.
what a beautiful gift to give ourselves, that my experience of the divine doesn't have to be like yours,
Yeah.
but we can still have this beautiful conversation about it.
Mm. Hmm. Yeah. And that there doesn't have to be like this separation or inner conflict within where It used to be like, okay, this Heather is going to show up on Tuesday, and then she's going to show up on Thursday, and that, the different parts of us, or the things that we, I don't know, like used to say, couldn't say, or just, but what you're talking about as like God as source and we are source, is that then I'm hearing you say what's happened to you too is that you've come into union with yourself. But and then with that union with yourself, it's union with the greater everything too.
The all.
The all. Hmm.
Yeah. And
Hmm.
listen, I mean, that's like, I call it a cha-cha because it's two steps forward where I'm like, yay, me and God, we're like one and it's all
Yeah.
good. And
Hmm.
then I wake up the next morning and I go,
Yeah.
heretic, you don't get to be the one
Hmm.
to talk that way. You
Hmm.
don't have a master's in theology or whatever I have been told that I needed to have in order to have a relationship with the one that made me. So it's definitely a dance, and it's something that requires a commitment because it's like a muscle. I
Hmm.
believe when we're born, we know exactly where we came from. And we talked the other day about these maths and the idea
Hmm.
of God taking, or creator taking steps back, so that eventually and ultimately the idea was free will, and you don't have God sitting next to you that you can experience in the physical saying, no, Heather, turn left, no, Maureen, turn right, do this, because it has to be your experience. It always has to be your
Yeah.
experience. So
Hmm.
it's a commitment to say to oneself, this is what I want this to be a personal relationship between source energy and myself, because when that happens, then the personal relationship has no limits. It includes you and every living creature on this planet. There's no more separation. And isn't that the goal? To
Hmm.
know that and to really know it on a fundamental soul
Hmm.
level. And that is just simple remembering.
Yeah, I love it. I know. It's what I sink into more and more. And I think you asked me the other day about why did you create all this, and why are you doing this? And the unity principles were, they're definitely the that we are all in this collective together as individuals here to express ourselves uniquely, divinely, and yet just really merge with one another in the experience. And like, I love Mystical Sisterhood because it's inviting, so far it's been women, but women to share in this collective, sort of like cauldron, or sort of,
Yeah.
the space that we're adding all our voices to the collective, and it's creating such an energy to it that it's undeniable. You're telling me the other day that you're seeing people almost like a magnetic attraction, like with the resonance of the Creative Sage Cottage up in Union Pier. And I said to you that it sounds to me like this piece of earth up in southwestern Michigan has a very vortex quality to it. And what is happening?
Well, I've been saying since the day I found Town Line Beach with my husband that there is something here. And you either get it or you don't. It isn't like, it's not for everybody, just like
Mhm.
anywhere on the planet, right? I had a very dear friend who came up to visit me right after I moved here, and she was like, "What are you doing here?
Mm.
And where is Target?" Okay, well, that's great. Some of us do. I need my Target fix also. But there is an energy and a vibration about this place. I don't know if it's that beautiful body of water half a
Mhm.
mile from
Mhm.
here. Certainly the people that are beginning to show up. But I always tell people there's like a little magical flute that started playing,
Yeah.
and it's been getting louder and louder and louder. And certain people are called to it. Some
Mhm.
will visit, they'll fall in love with the Redemax hamburger, say thanks
Mhm.
for having me, and off they go. But it's definitely, there's something happening here. And
Beautiful. Mhm.
I invite people to, put Harbor Country on the list to pay a visit, just to stand at the top of Town Line Beach.
Mhm.
I send every single magical mentoring client there because I know for me, that's how we got here. I stood there with my husband years ago, collecting acorns and rocks and saying, this is where I'm going to live. And at the time, we were both like, no, we're not. Yes, we are. And now we're here. And that bowl of rocks is in my living room.
Mm-hmm.
Something called me here, and it's been
Mm-hmm.
calling me here since I was a little kid.
Yeah.
And here we are. But I think it's like that. There's something happening in the global collective right now where people are suddenly becoming,
Mm-hmm.
they're remembering to become much more aware of who
Mm-hmm.
they truly are. And that's a little bit scary, and it's a very empowering time to be alive. I love knowing that every single person on this planet right now chose to be here at this
Yeah.
particular time and contribute something that only they can contribute. And we cannot be the best version of ourselves without you saying yes to what you contracted to share with
Mm-hmm.
us before you came here. How amazing is that?
It's amazing. And then it allows, well, I'm thinking about you and just that this, how much of what you've created and what now comes through you, Heather, is the creation from what traditionally would be the mind space or our ego, and what you're guided to, and what is your process and how you create these days, and what you offer out there.
The only time this is successful is when I get out of the way.
Mm.
Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
It's so funny because I've been having a conversation with clients lately, and it's starting to become something very repetitive in that I believe wholeheartedly that we are given divine ideas. And it's in a book. I read about it. It was kind of validated for me in a book by Elizabeth Gilbert called Big Magic,
Hmm.
where she talks about this idea of like it's coming for you and you sort of have a choice. Am I going to grab it, or am I just going to like get out of the way and let it move through? And it's completely up to you. You can do whatever you want with it. It will hang around for a little while. And then it's like, okay, you're not, this isn't for you right now. I'm out. I'm going to go up the
Hmm.
road to where someone's got the welcome sign at the door.
Yes. Yeah.
I noticed a couple of years ago that when I hear it or when I feel it, when it shows up for me and I have this like moment of inspiration, I have to keep going. I have to
Hmm.
run with it, and I have to follow it straight down the rabbit hole
Yeah.
wherever it's taking me. Because generally, that's how I got to the Hebrew
Hmm.
alphabet with the tarot cards.
Hmm.
That's how I got to all my friends, the herbs and the flowers. And it was all sort of like I said yes.
Hmm.
And then you have to say to yourself, there can't be like, oh, roses are divine, but that rock isn't. So if I trip over that rock, is there wisdom in that rock for me? Is it
Hmm.
as simple as that rock being in my path just so I'll pause?
Hmm.
Stop running around, be still. So you wouldn't be still. So now you're going to trip over this rock. So
Hmm.
I believe that I take cues from everything in my environment. And sometimes those cues literally come in the form of like a little movie for me, or they'll drop in like a spark. And the choice is what I'm going to do with it. Am I going to say, I'm busy and this is too scary and no? Or, oh my gosh,
Hmm.
you picked me for this? I get to be the one to share? That's
Hmm.
unbelievable. Sort of like what you're doing with Mystical Sisterhood. You
Hmm.
got tapped. And instead of going and getting a job somewhere else and being someone completely different, you said yes. And now look what you're doing. Look,
Hmm.
by simply turning on the welcome sign and
Yeah.
saying yes, look who's showing up at your door. It's
Hmm.
amazing to me.
Hmm. Yeah, and it's absolutely amazing, and I see myself on the journey. And you and I were talking last week. I was thinking, like when you just said get out of your own way, I was in my head thinking, how should I do this? And then by you just suggesting, well, perhaps you can, come from your heart space or come from a different way of seeing this. It allowed me to get to the side. And what I'm really tuning into is that way things feel, the way things feel. And I was saying to you last week that I have felt at different parts of the journey that people will say, do it this way, do it this way. You could, all the things. And I was soaking in that energy. And what I'm learning more and more is like, it's gotta be my way. It's just, and I think you were echoing that sentiment. And so anyone who comes to you or who's listening today, it's gotta be your way. It's not
Yes.
gonna be any other way. And we're at a point in time where this is being supported, it feels like to me more than ever.
Yes.
And when I understand that this energy, the creator energy and capacity comes from within me, and that it's an infinite wellspring, then this guy really is the limit. And the ideas that I come up with, or you or the listener, they've never been thought of before. Maybe they can look like 10 other ones, but they're not. They carry a different energetic imprint. They're coming from you. So there, is unique and magical. So I love this idea that we're really like, hey, bring your ideas to the table and really consider the ones that are popping into your head, because even this morning, I was working on something I'm putting out this fall, and I was trying to just be with it with ease and grace, like what feels good, and I can feel it in my body when
Yes.
I am coming up against like a resistance, or I'm taking on something that's not mine. It begins to feel kind of like
Icky.
icky and sandpapery and not smooth, and then I know to back up and take
Yes.
a pause and just step back, go take a walk around the block or
Yeah.
something. Yeah.
This is not for me. It's like you keep like going up against a door and you have your foot at the base of the door and you're pulling on the door and you're going, why won't this open?
Mhm.
Well, that door isn't for you. Like
Mhm.
you're no matter how
Yeah.
hard you push and pull. And then when you do open that door, it's probably going to hit you in the face. And you're not going to be able to do what you thought you were going to be able to do anyway, because you're opening
Mhm.
someone else's door. It's like
Yes.
when you're sitting in a group and the older I get, like the more I'm understanding I don't love the idea of trying to fit in anymore because that means I'm trying to become a version of myself
Yeah.
that's more like you,
Mhm.
when what we're really supposed to be doing is showing up as ourselves,
Mhm.
because that's how we learn to experience the vastness and the unlimitedness of this world. And
Mhm.
how boring if I just kept coming up against me everywhere I looked. First of all, that idea is just terrifying. Oh my gosh, energetically, I would need a nap like every 5 minutes. But how boring, how absolutely boring. So, yes, yes to being very still. And I like literally will tell people, put your hands on your chest. What does it feel like? Do
Mm.
you can feel that we talked about the other day, that 1970s like super heavy scratchy wool blanket,
Yes.
and then it rains and that blanket's like you can't, you know what it feels like. Resistance is real. And
Mhm.
there's a big difference between resistance because you're afraid of something, which you're allowed to be,
Yeah.
and resistance because you're trying to push a square through a circle and you're never going to get it to fit.
Absolutely. There's a difference, and the one is going back to my mind, stepping out of your own way. Stepping
Yeah.
what if you allowed yourself to come forth? And I'll tell you that I think when we go to air with this will be episode 86. When I was willing to put down on paper what was coming to me divinely and move towards creation, I sort of got in front of the creation, I think. I just said, "Okay, here we go." And I trusted it, and I did the logical steps to launch it, and now it's a year and a half later at 86 episodes with you, and that much, I told you, 11,000 downloads. I mean, you cannot make this stuff up. You just can't. And so if we're willing to, I love how you call it magical mentoring, because the mystical, the magical, it has an aura to it. It's fun. And the things that surprise me is I right now have that it's a group of less than 10 women, I call it creator connections. And that was never, I didn't script that out. It just came to me one day, and then I put it up and people said, "Oh, that looks interesting." But I love that in terms of what I see you offering too, because we try things in life, and sometimes, like you're saying, if it's that square peg in the round hole,
Yep.
maybe it's not going to go, but we go with what's coming to us and what wants to come through us. And I've seen you with certain going down certain roads and being like, yeah, that's not it for me. And
Yeah.
so what's really emerging on your piece of land now and from within your heart about what you're creating in real time here?
The thing that I understand about myself now better than I ever have before is you can run, but you can't hide.
Hmm.
I mean, literally, I don't recall a time when I have not wanted to have these sort of conversations with people, solicited or otherwise, where I've just wanted to like walk up to someone. I mean, my husband will tell you there have been times when he looks at me and he's like, "Don't do it. She didn't ask, like, don't walk over to her." And so I will sit on my hands. I want the best for everyone. I want people to know that you're here because you are the perfect expression of God in your own humanity. And for you to keep dimming your own light, for you to keep saying, no, not me, that's sort of like thumbing your nose at the one who created you and saying, well, he or she, this energy believed in me enough and thought I was important enough
Hmm.
that I should be here, but I know better. So I'm going to say no to that. Oh, that seems like lightning is striking all over the place. What an unbelievable privilege that at
Hmm.
54, I'm still here. I
Hmm.
lost a sibling in his mid 40s, people younger, so much younger, who didn't have the opportunity to spend nearly as much time in this incarnation. And I'm questioning, is my validity the same as yours or the listeners or anybody else's? 100%. If you're here and you are made in the image of the one that made you, then yes, yes to all of it. Say yes to whatever shows up for you and is given to you because you're the only one that can express the divine the way you're expressing it. And it's been ordained that way. You know, I love that you said you were ahead of the process.
Hmm.
What I firmly believe is the things that are for us have already happened.
Hmm.
You know, time is a human thing.
Hmm.
The infinite is a spirit thing, and there's no
Hmm.
clocks where we come from. I don't believe. It's
Yeah.
sort of like Vegas, but not as like risky. It's more enjoyable. I feel like it sort of all collapses onto itself. So you're experiencing it in this time, space, place, but it's already here. If it's meant for you, then it's already formed. We
Hmm.
just have to pull it out of the ether and
Yeah.
bring it into fruition. That
Mm.
thought, that's not a new thought. It's you remembering something that you already knew, and now
Mhm.
you're going to put something to it. I'm working on this year-long deck of cards, and this morning the card that I pulled was foundation.
Mm.
And what I love so much about that is it's such a reminder that we have to start with a foundation. We have to take what's out there and bring it in and bring it down to us so that we can stack everything else on
Yeah.
top of it.
Mhm.
It's such a beautiful thing.
It is, it is. Yes. And then from that place, are we able, when we bring that down to the foundation, does that serve as sort of like a conduit or a portal for us to come through?
I
For
think so.
yeah.
I
Uh-huh.
think the earth space, the
Mhm.
ground here is the fertile soil where we plant things.
Mhm.
We bring them, the
Mm.
Hebrew letter aleph, as
Mhm.
above, so below. Or
Yeah.
if you look at like the magician in the tarot, we
Mhm.
bring from divine creation into
Yeah.
physical. So
Yeah.
we are the portal. Like, even
Love it.
as it's happening,
Mm.
we're the ones that are taking the thought and alchemizing it into the way we can translate it so that it can become the thing.
Yeah.
I love
Yeah.
that you just took a breath during that because you know it.
Yeah.
You
Well,
took a big breath. It was
I
beautiful to
did.
see.
Yes, because it's so powerful. It feels so powerful. It's like, whew, you're like, wow,
Yeah.
wow. I mean, I always go back. I mean, I've quoted you so many times with the, what if everything was sacred? But I think that it's a real sacred honoring of ourselves when we can know that everything, every person put in our path, every event, experience, book, rock, whatever it is, it's breath we take. It's all for us to learn about ourselves and remember, why we are here, and to share of ourselves, to be
Yes.
in like a real environment and culture of sharing and celebration of like, wow, look at you. And just I mean, it's the stuff that dreams are made of.
Yes.
And it reminds me of when you're saying like the pulling down from the ethers, it's like that feels like a kid in a candy shop. Like,
Yeah.
wow, wow, what am I going to do today? And that
Yep.
also, no idea. I think we grew up under this paradigm of that idea is crazy, but no idea is really too out there or too. And you and I know I'm saying a lot of things, but you and I talked about like, I recently went to a Reiki session, and we were pulling apart where the mystic was kind of teased out of me as a younger child,
Yeah.
and that I came in with it. And there's a big, big reason why I named the podcast this.
Yeah.
Yet I had a wall of separation between me and my mysticism. And that was just all there for me to create. Like, if you ever wonder why you create something, it's for you to learn within as well.
Well, I was going to say how profound and how very true that you are your own best teacher.
Mm,
I mean, listen, we can read all the books,
yeah.
memorize whatever holy words you want to memorize until you feel it and know it in your soul and remember it on that deep soul level. It's just words. It's 100% just words. And when you can say like, "Oh, this is all for me," so that it can move through me and become for the next person. Like while you were talking, I was thinking to myself, I wonder if you've ever even thought about the fact that right now, or when this airs, somebody in your audience is going to see you, and all of a sudden they're going to realize that they have a dream too.
Mm,
And look, she has a different background. She comes from a different place.
mm,
Maureen just said she had the mystical teased out of her and blocked.
mhm,
And look at what she's creating.
mhm,
And that means that person suddenly, for the first time in their life, they understand and remember they can do something that
mhm,
they want to do also. You're
yeah,
doing that. You don't
mhm,
know who's paying attention. We don't know who's watching, and we certainly don't know what their perception is
yeah,
and how it may have just unlocked something in them. And
mhm,
how amazing to think that just because you were a brave girl and
mhm,
you put on your brave girl wings and you said yes, you're going to have this ripple effect
yeah,
that you can't even begin to know. How
mm,
incredible is that? And I'll add to that, one of the most important things I think we can do every day is make a commitment to wonder, to
mm,
showing up
yeah,
and experiencing the world. I mean, have you ever looked at a little kid just staring at a pile of rocks and they can see? I'm watching it out with the art card outside right now. I see these kids like the things they come up with if we
mhm,
just get out of their way,
mhm,
because they live from an uninhibited childlike place of
yes,
wonder. And
yes.
what greater way to experience the world than that?
So beautiful. They do not yet have limiting beliefs
Because
about,
they haven't heard us
right?
enough yet. Right? They're
Exactly.
not listening to the grown-ups yet.
Yeah, yeah. And that's and the one thing that comes to mind for anyone who this conversation is resonating deeply with is that what limiting belief has prevented you from the belief that you're here to create, something from within you, and that it's worthy and valid, and the world is waiting for it.
Well, and I think it's really important to ask not only about that limiting belief, what have I been carrying, but who gave it to me? Because
Mhm.
certainly I didn't show up that way.
Right.
You can go
Yes.
back to places in your life where you had an opportunity to do something and someone had told you previously that you shouldn't do that. or
Mm-hmm.
that, no, you should do this.
Mm-hmm.
And it became your gospel. It became your truth. No, Maureen, you're supposed to be a lawyer, or no,
Yeah.
Maureen, you should be this. And
Mm-hmm.
so, even though you knew that was not for you, you shut out everything else because someone that mattered to you more than you
Yes.
mattered to you told you this is who you're supposed to be. And then
Mm-hmm.
one day you wake up and go, but those people were human also. And
Mm-hmm.
they were having a human experience or are having a human experience. And who told them who they are? And it's all of a sudden it becomes this like, you can see all the way back how grandma and great grandma have kind of been operating the same way because the belief started somewhere and we've just generationally carried it through
Yes.
to
Yes.
today until
Mm-hmm.
you said,
Mm-hmm.
I'm not going to live this way anymore. A
Mm-hmm.
change has to be made, and this doesn't feel right. And so, who am I truly without who they told me I should be?
Absolutely. And then it becomes a big gift to the world because I look at what you do and it lights up my life. And I can see that light emanating from the space you're taking up on your property and what you're
Thank you.
creating. Yeah. And it's
It's an
true.
honor.
We become gifts for one another. And I'm
Yes.
so grateful that you're here and that you're like stepped into it. Look at you. Like if anyone is not watching on YouTube, it's like Heather is always surrounded by, I think, the things that bring you alive, which
Yeah.
what are those things that bring you alive?
Oh, that's a really big question. People definitely have the ability to light me up, but I think I might be a little bit of a hermit and not even realize it. I love when people come for magical mentoring and we are in shared space together. There's something, I don't know if it's the amount of prayer or the herbs
Yeah.
and the flowers and all of these beautiful gifts from nature and the intention that I have literally, like, this is my energetic bunker. I always tell people if things go sideways, you can come here. I don't know if I'll let you in if you're in a bad mood, but this is where you'll find me. I'll be in my
Mhm.
bunker and I'll be praying for you. And maybe I'll throw some sage or salt or something out there. But I think being in a space of truly honoring what feels right for me for the first time in my life these last
Mhm.
few years, to
Mhm.
just being able to be honest with myself and say, yes, Tarot and I, we have a very special relationship. The Hebrew alphabet and I, man, if they had told me this stuff in Hebrew school, God only knows what I would have become. But they didn't, and that's okay.
Mhm.
And no, you're not a heretic because you talk about God, Heather. It's okay. I mean,
Mhm.
so it's, if I'm happy and if it feels different here, it's because this space for me is holy.
Mhm.
And hopefully, the room that you're sitting in right now, with that beautiful angel with her arms opened up to the divine behind you,
Yes.
welcoming it all in and giving it all back, is exactly the same sort of thing. This intentional reciprocity from a place of wide open heart space awareness can only be good for all of us. It can
Mhm.
only be expansive for all of us. It can
Yeah.
never be limiting. So, yeah, I'm in a happy little bubble here. I love when people join me here. It's just man, what an amazing time to be alive, right?
Yeah.
What an amazing time for us to have said, yes, I'm going to share with you what I understand. You don't have to agree with me. You could think that I'm a little nuts if you want to. I'm okay with that.
Mhm.
But we said yes anyway in
Yes.
the prayer and hope that even if it just lands on one set of open ears and a wide open heart, something good can come of it.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think when I hear you stepping into it and when I'm actively stepping into it, it's that we were told that it was wrong, that it was and Alicia will say this to us, Alicia Isaacs House,
Yeah.
we were persecuted way back when for saying these things. So it's so understandable, but we're coming down the lineage where it's like, oh gosh, no more. We're really and having each other as examples. So I love it. And you know, you and I and you especially are always so into creating the magic. And the word magic, I mean, it's like, I feel like imagination is in there. You know, you and I, when we talked the other day, you said, hey, okay, Maureen, would you be up for joining forces, which I called Wonder Twin Powers, and
Activate.
activate to do a workshop for the fall equinox, the autumn equinox, and the new moon that will occur in early October. So we are going to be joining together to do just that, and we'll have the information. But what do you want to share about that? And I'll add on.
Well, this is, I mean, I'm an October baby. Autumn is my absolute favorite time of year. And I'll bring it back to where we almost started from.
Yeah.
It is it is literally Mother Nature's way of saying, check in. What don't you need anymore? What can you allow to drop in order
Mhm.
for it to take the next however many months, and you can assign any cycle time-wise you like to that, so that it now those leaves, they become nutrition and
Yeah.
nutrients for the earth, and they
Mhm.
become the thing that the next seed grows out of for next year. So the fall for me is like, I'm a candy corn girl, sorry. And the just the energetic cues of the whole thing, the death, I'm a Scorpio, the death and rebirth cycle, burning it all down so that we
Mhm.
can build it back up again and rise up out of these ashes. This is everything to me. So I was thinking that with your beautiful wide net of listeners that you have, it would be super fun to lean really into the intention of the October new moon, that harvest-ish type
Yeah.
time of year,
Mhm.
where we start to pivot towards the darkness a little bit. And with that darkness, we sort of start to hone in on internal wisdom and that internal knowing. And
Mm.
so I thought, I don't know how well you could see it. We're
Yep, I
going
can
to
see. Mhm.
create these little wisdom keeper dolls. So what's going to happen is your listeners will order their kit online, and that kit, no two will be exactly the same. We'll have all sorts of ribbons and beads and driftwood and shells and a lot of other surprises. And then we're going to meet the night of October 3rd, just in time for this beautiful new moon. We're going to do a very brief meditation about the new moon and about the seasonal
Mhm.
aspects of that new moon. And then we're going to talk about intention and how to charge our little wisdom keeper with the blessing of carrying intention for us. So I'm not going to tell you everything because there have to be a few surprises, but whether you consider yourself to be a creative, a spiritualist, whatever your journey
Mhm.
is, whatever your path is, there is a seat for you at this
Yeah.
table,
Mhm.
because intention and awareness is for everyone.
Yeah.
And I think you and I are going to have a blast bringing this to fruition. So October 3rd, mark your
Yep.
calendars.
Yeah, it's going to be just a beautiful gathering, and we're doing it online. Yeah, the invitation is out there for you. I will include a landing page for you to look at. And like Heather was saying, we're going to cut off I guess, the deadline will be a few weeks before so we can get everyone their kit in time. And we'll
Yes.
join together on this beautiful October night under the new moon,
Yeah.
and we'll create. I love this intention of creating this really soulful space where we bring our energies to alchemize together and just create something for ourselves to take away, but something that can really reside in our with our soul and in our heart as we go
Yes.
forward into fall. Hmm.
This is going to sort of put a face to your intention, in that you're going to have this little wisdom keeper doll,
Hmm.
your version of it, sitting there with a reminder of
Yes.
what it is that you wanted to call forward for yourself
Yeah.
during this time of year.
Mm.
And then
Hmm.
at some point, as we get closer to the full moon, perhaps we'll reconvene and we
Hmm.
can check in and see how that feels. And it doesn't have to be an October full moon. It can
Yes.
be any time during the autumn season. What does that intention feel like now? And how am I honoring myself with that intention? And do I perhaps need to course correct and tweak a few things? So I
Yeah.
think, and I have to tell you on an aside, I'm laughing. I'm trying not to laugh because I love that it's you and I that are doing this. Because if you stood us next to each other, we are about as polar opposite, like the blonde and the brunette, the girl who's always in black, and you're like a bright, sparkling light. And I love that we're doing this together because there's a common meeting place for the two of
Mm-hmm.
us in this
Mm-hmm.
hope and prayer to just put a little light out there and
Yeah.
awareness for everyone,
Mm.
regardless of what their backstory is. So, how beautiful that you're holding space for this opportunity. And I thank you for it.
Yeah, thank you. And it's a little bit of come as you are. And I just love the idea too of these wisdom keeper dolls, like that we're creating them in union, in community. And we can, when we go away and we look at ours, we can remember each other's. And I'm very excited about it. So I'll include the information for all the listeners. And I don't know, Heather, as we wrap up, any closing remarks that you want to leave with the listener, sort of as we are in mid-August, or if they're listening a few months down the road. Any
You know,
messages?
the I have to say, I'm sorry I interrupted you. The whole time we've been sitting here talking, I have a loop running through my head that is a very simple reminder that the divine, God, source, creator, whatever you wish to call it, will always meet you exactly where you are. So
Mhm,
you don't have to
mhm,
aspire to become anything other than who you are right in this
mhm,
moment in
mhm,
order to be perfect in the eyes and in the heart of the one that created you.
mhm,
You need only show up. That's
mhm,
all you have to do. And if it
mhm.
doesn't feel right, you can course correct. You
Love it.
can change route, but say yes to yourself and say yes
Mhm,
to feeling good about your existence and your experience of this journey.
yeah.
Because as we know it right now, it's the only one we get. You're
Mhm,
not going to come back as the same person you were in
mhm,
this incarnation. We talked the other day about the soul vacation and how when you go on a vacation, you don't spend time doing things that you or feeling ways you don't wish to feel. So, why do that for yourself in this incarnation?
mhm,
Why not just show up, say yes, and know that anytime you need divine guidance, all you have to do is say yes and listen.
mm. You just said it all. I love it. It's perfect for right now. Say yes, divine awareness, you are
Yes.
perfection, openness. I love it. So thank you, Heather. This will not be the last time. Of course, we'll see everyone who can make it with us on October 3rd for the workshop. And yeah, we'll leave it at that for today. Everyone look for Heather up in Union Pier at the Creative Sage Cottage and online at Heather, where to find you.
The Creative Sage LLC.com.
Nice. Okay.
Thank
Perfect.
you so much for this opportunity. It is such a privilege and such an honor to share space with you in this capacity, and I appreciate you more than I could say with words. Thank you for
Uh,
the work that you're doing.
Yeah, thank you, Heather. I appreciate that so much. And to the listener, we'll see you next time. Thanks for listening to this episode of Mystical Sisterhood. To learn more about my one-on-one coaching programs or join the Mystical Sisterhood membership, visit maureenspielman.com or mysticalsisterhood.com. Thanks so much. I'll see you in the next episode.